What's up, gang? Kawaii50 here with another fake Grand Order video. Listen, I'll stop making stuff on JP when they stop giving me cool things to talk about, but tonight that really isn't the case, to the point where I had to cancel tonight's stream because this needed to be talked about first. There was a lot of really interesting stuff that came out recently in Famitsu and Tucson interviews that Kita-Sean went and translated over on Twitter. There's a lot of super cool stuff, like, for example, how they actually agreed that Merlin deserves a strengthening quest the most, and a bunch of other fun little tidbits of trivia. So you can go ahead and check those out on the thread. I'm going to link it down in the description below. But the important stuff comes from the Tucson interview. This stuff I want to talk about, what Kano Yoshiki has said. Very, very important things in this Tucson interview. And I'm going to be going ahead and going through each of these, because if what Kano-san is saying is actually truthful, then I think we might be in for an actual bright future when it comes to fake Grand Order, even though Pen skills were garbage. But that's that whole other video, and you can go ahead and watch that. If this video interests you, be sure to go ahead, like, and subscribe. So I'm just going to go through the tweets in the order that Kita put them out, and the first one is regarding PvP. That's right. Kano Yoshiki said FGO has plans to upgrade the Holy Grail Front, one of FGO's most successful events. It is still not decided, but they would like to develop a non-real-time battle mode, aka PvP. He understands that players are against PvP, which he does understand, but they plan to test it out anyways within the team. I'm sure if you've played other gacha games, you yourself have seen a sort of asymmetric battle mode, like an arena mode, where you end up putting up your own team, it's out there in the ether, and then players fight whatever team you have set up, using its skills, using its abilities, quite possibly in an order that you've planned them in, and you end up fighting each other that way. You climb a ranking system, you get rewards, what have you. And seeing that implemented in the guise of Holy Grail Front would be interesting. I'm kind of glad that they're going the asymmetric PvP route, because I really don't want to see any like turn-based arena stuff like Epic 7 end up coming to fake Grand Order. Not that that stuff isn't fun, but if you really want to succeed in that mode, you end up really having to make sure you are super invested in all of your units, you're building into those teams, and you need to give it quite a bit of attention. And I'm not really sure if that's something that would specifically sit well targeting fake Grand Order's audience. But PvP might be coming to the game. Who knew? This next bit is about something I've seen you all mentioning on streams quite routinely, and that is the gap. They are aware of the gap between new and older servants, most importantly regarding noble phantasms, and the best way to fix that problem is via strengthening quests. Now, I'm sure a lot of you have been paying attention to the rank ups on JP that have been coming out recently, and quite a few of them have been oriented specifically at noble phantasms. One of the most recent examples I think was phenomenal is Ku Kalain Altar, whose new noble phantasm is absolutely absurd. Turns him into a truck, gets rid of defensive buffs. It's absolutely dope. And this is something I know that players really want to see. We have a lot of these servants that we've pulled from way, way back when. And some of them, honestly, not nearly as good as a lot of their counterparts. Like, I know, for example, Asclepius, being as good as he is, sort of kind of makes Iris feel a little obsolete, even though she is an event servant. Having an ability to strengthen these noble phantasms is going to allow these older servants to once again shine brightly. And likely, you've pulled them a couple of times, so they might even be at a higher NP level. Who knows, something as simple as a strengthening quest could make a servant you've long had on the bench more relevant. That's beautiful. That is something we really need to see, and it's going to reward not only longtime players, but new players who ended up pulling something either off the story banner or on a rerun. The next thing Kita translated is that FGO might be adding a function that allows you to put your favorite friend support on top of the list. So there's not really much I can say about this. It's pretty cool if you have a buddy that you know consistently plays the game, logs in every day like yours truly, and you want to be able to use their characters to maximum effect, because you know they're always gonna be packing something good. There is a danger of this potentially funneling FP to a single person, but I feel like people's servant rosters are so varied that it's not actually going to be a huge issue. Now, this next one is unfortunately kind of a mixed bag. Kano plans to add more rewards in the future. However, the team does not have plans to add main interludes frequently. I do like the fact that they are going to be including more rewards. I'm sure a lot of players out there can agree that when it comes to rewards, FGO seems a little sparse compared to other gacha games. I mean, look at Grand Blue Fantasy, for example. That game's been around forever, and whenever it has an anniversary, players get absolutely buried in gifts to the point that they might be close to absolutely paralyzed in all of the things that they have received. Getting tons of new characters, tons of new equipment, tons of new raids to do. Players now have so many more extra things to do that keeps them playing the game longer. It seems like FGO might finally be understanding that if you give your players rewards, things that can get them more things to sink levels into, to gain new abilities, to gain a renewed interest in playing the game, it's going to keep your players playing the game longer. It's going to make retention higher. It's going to give you a higher chance to earn money from that retained base of players. It's a shame that it took us till 6th anniversary to get to that point, but it is what it is. Now, them not having plans to add main interludes, that's kind of upsetting on my end. I really would like to see main interludes for some of the most important events related to the story. We did get one for Seraph. Seraph was basically another Epic of Remnant chapter, much like Oku is basically another Lost Belt chapter. We really need to get some of these more important story interludes added into the game so players can experience them. I might not have these plans available right now because they plan to do so many other things, and I would rather see them attack gameplay and quality of life features over adding in a rerun of another story. So I think priorities are in order in this tweet, to be quite honest, but I would still like to see them do that eventually. Now, this next bit is the thing I am the most excited about. Kano plans to update the gameplay by adding in a new battle system, new noble phantasms, specific items that can help specific classes such as casters, and new dailies. This last part we're actually sort of starting to see with 6th anniversary on JP. They massively increased the QP rewards on farming doors. You now get around 3 million to 4 million QP at base each run. And that is incredible to start with. But the rest of this does really make me believe that Kano is serious about having FGO make its way to its 10th anniversary. I'm sure a lot of players out there have agreed with me as they've tried other gacha games. FGO, while a very good game, unfortunately feels very, very dated, especially considering a lot of the other gacha games out there. I play a ton of Dissidia Opera Omnia myself, and that game just feels leagues ahead of Fate Grand Order in the way that it operates, in the way that it runs, in the way those battles end up playing out. It just feels super, super clean, and farming ends up being a blast in that game. And I really wish I could say the same for FGO most of the time, but sometimes that really just doesn't feel like it's the case. Including a new battle system is a great way to revitalize the game, and it might even revitalize older servants. I don't quite know how they would particularly do this, but considering at least visually the success and the enthusiasm surrounding Fate Grand Order Arcade, seeing something like that on phones, which they are totally capable of, I mean, look at Genshin Impact, I think seeing something like that, even if it was just those kinds of models, but still the same kind of turn-based combat, would do so much for the community and the community's enjoyment of FGO. The new NPs we are already starting to see implemented, in my opinion. Just look at Fairy Knight Lancelot having the AoE and single target Noble Phantasm in her kit. This could end up working really well with the rank up system like they already mentioned. I do think this might end up being their plan, giving servants multiple noble phantasms. Maybe multiple noble phantasms like Lancelot, depending on abilities that they use, or maybe you'll be able to go into a quest and set your noble phantasm before the quest begins, and use whatever noble phantasm fits your specific situation. Maybe you don't just have to bring along Artoria now because you need her for farming. Maybe Artoria will now have both an AoE and a single target noble phantasm, and if you want to make her your boss slayer, that is a perfectly acceptable thing to do. The only thing I'm kind of iffy on here are specific items that can help specific classes, and this mainly lies in the implementation. I'm sure a lot of you have seen some of the news surrounding Pokemon Unite, and Pokemon Unite's items that you can get for your monsters. Yes, you can farm those items, but you can easily pay money in to get those items faster, and it sort of creates a little bit of a pay-to-win environment. If items are specifically rewarded for doing things like completing events, like completing story chapters, and they'd be rewarded to us retroactively, like as login bonuses for logging into the game X, Y, or Z number of days, I think that's something that could make a lot of servants far more interesting to play, and would also not bring in that pay-to-win factor. Especially if you're starting to implement PvP in your game, pay-to-win becomes far more of a concern than it does in any sort of PvE game. Overall, gang, the reason I made this video is because there was a lot of exciting stuff hiding in this interview. Of course, we got our general, lists and stuff from the Famitsu stuff that came before, but this particular interview with Kano has really made me feel like that since, Ono's come over to the Lightworks, that Nasu might be taking a step back from writing and letting some people with new ideas come in and focus on Fate Grand Order's development, that we might actually end up getting a better game out of it. And that is not a knock at Nasu. Let's be real, Lost Belt 6 is some of the most incredible writing in any video game, and pretty much everything that Nasu pens is an absolute masterpiece. But having a new eye to come in and look at these games and take a look at what the community has been saying, maybe even being a member of the community themselves and finding ways to make that title better, that is not only good for the company and their bottom line, but that's good for us as players, and that's going to make this a more energized and more excited Fate Grand Order community going forward. But I want to know what you all think, so let me know your thoughts about Fate Grand Order down in the comment section below. Let me know what direction you would like to see the Lightworks take this game in the future. Let me know if there's something specific that you would like to see from FGO as they continue to implement these changes. What are your feelings on PvP? What are your feelings on equipable items, on changing the battle system, on the gap between new and older servants? If you have a thought related to anything I've discussed in this video, let's go ahead and start a conversation down below. I would like to give a huge thanks to the people over on the Discord for continuing to contribute to discussion and just being an all-around great community. I would also like to give a thanks to those on Patreon, those on Twitch, and of course the subscribers on YouTube. Seeing all the enthusiasm from you all every single time I post a video really just makes me raring to go whenever I get an idea in my head like this to sit down and start recording. So thank you all for that. Anyways, this is Kawaii50. I hope you all have a phenomenal day, and I'll see you all in the next video.